Kaiju No. 8 was probably the anime that I was most excited about watching this year, at least in terms of new anime. Manga readers were hyping it up as they always do, but I was also very excited because the studio animating this are Production IG, and they are a great studio. They're sort of known for their sports anime. They're the studio that animated the likes of Haikyu, Kuroko's Basketball, Welcome to the Ballroom, Run with the Wind, Ace of Diamond, Aoashi, The Prince of Tennis 2, and Eyeshield 21. Man, that's a lot of sports anime. But they've also animated a lot of other popular anime such as Psychopaths, Bunny Drop, and one of my personal favourite anime, Heavenly Delusion. If you've not seen Heavenly Delusion, then you absolutely should. It's got a fantastic story, and Production IG absolutely crushed it in the animation department, as I fully expect they will continue to do so in the upcoming Terminator anime. I mean, this is the studio that spawned Wit Studio, so you know that they should be able to produce some truly spellbinding animation, and they absolutely do in this anime. There are so many moments that really hype you up and draw you in because the animation is of such a high standard. Fight scenes and action sequences take your breath away and leave you on the edge of your seat. But it's not just these moments where Kaiju No. 8 decides to provide great animation. There are some silly moments in this anime and humorous sections where the show also has brilliant animation. I also remember in the first episode where they're removing the corpse of this massive kaiju from the streets, and there's a specific shot where you see them cut into the kaiju that just looked so beautiful, despite the fact that this creature's guts were literally spilling out everywhere. Production IG did what they always do, and they absolutely nailed the animation for this series. But that wasn't a surprise. However, animation can only take an anime so far, and there's no way that I would have connected with this anime as much as I did if that was all it had to offer. So how about I tell you all the reasons why Kaiju No. 8 is my favourite anime of the season. Kaiju No. 8 follows Kafka, a man who has long dreamed of becoming a member of the Defence Force. In this world, kaiju attacks are very frequent and unsurprisingly do result in many people losing their lives. So Kafka and his childhood friend Mina make a promise to each other to join the Defence Force together and stand by each other's side as they take down the kaiju and protect everyone. Except that's not how things ended up playing out. Instead, Mina achieved what she set out to do. She became the captain of the 3rd Division and became an inspiration to so many. Meanwhile, Kafka failed repeatedly to join the Defence Force and instead ends up as part of the cleanup crew. He's the one who has to dispose of the kaiju corpses after they've been completely eviscerated by Mina. Kafka has tried so many times and has become older, leading him to give up on his dreams. But a new recruit to the cleanup crew, Ichikawa, is able to change Kafka's perspective, and the two agree to join the Defence Force together so they can both achieve their dream. Unfortunately, a little spanner gets thrown into the works as Kafka ends up undergoing a little deep throat exercise with a kaiju, where he ends up swallowing more than he bargained for as the kaiju forces its way into his body and fuses with him, thus turning Kafka into a kaiju. Not just any kaiju, but an extremely powerful one, resulting in him being designated a number and being referred to as Kaiju No. 8. Will Kafka still be able to join the Defence Force? Can he and Ichikawa keep Kafka's secret hidden? And will Kafka finally be able to stand by Mina's side after all these years? Find out all this and more in Kaiju No. 8. Kaiju No. 8's story is really good. Almost every week the anime would drop another action-packed episode. You would have one little mini arc filled with lots of action, and then the week after you'd be thrown into the next one with little time to breathe. You might think that this would be a negative, but this was actually one of my favourite parts of this anime. Its breakneck pacing kept me constantly engaged and made me long for each episode. This anime is fun and exciting, and I loved every second of it. Well, almost every second of it. To be honest, I was actually a little disappointed with this anime at first. Yeah, the visuals were astonishing, with Production IG clearly pouring in a lot of passion and talent into every frame, but my issue wasn't that, it was the tone. I went into this anime with the misconception that this would be a very dark, maybe gory, maybe not, series about a bunch of people taking on kaiju, all whilst our main lead struggled to come to terms with his metamorphosis and fretted over whether he was still a human or whether he was a kaiju. I think I was sort of expecting this to be kind of like Attack on Titan in tone, where anyone could die at any second. Maybe it's because of anime like Jujutsu Kaisen or even Demon Slayer that I was expecting just the worst possible outcome for the characters. So imagine my shock when I realised that this series wasn't going to have a dark tone, or at the very least wasn't going to have this constant overbearing dark tone, and instead I was met with this oddly goofy tone where everyone is having fun being silly, and Kafka isn't really traumatised about being a kaiju now. In fact, he doesn't really take it too seriously at all. He's more upset that he's peeing out of his nipples and that he'll quote, "never be a bride now." The tone wasn't what I was anticipating, and so I sort of reflexively bounced off the first episode. However, I adjusted to what this series was and not what I had wanted it to be, and this anime really won me over. And like the pacing, I really love the tone of this anime. It can be really stupid and funny, but that doesn't detract from how serious the story can be, because it results in all the characters becoming even more likeable. Especially a lot of the background supporting characters who didn't get much of an opportunity to shine in this first season. The more light-hearted tone allows their personality to become more apparent. I still remember the red-haired lady, who I can't even remember the name of, bursting over two of the male characters and a text popping up saying that she had entered her cougar mode. I can't remember her name, but I remember that moment, and just that moment really made me warm up to that character and learn something about her, even though she played such a minor role in the first season. Moments like that and the viewer making connections with the characters, no matter how small, wouldn't have been as possible had Kaiju No. 8 not had the tone that it did. However, I did say that this show could be really serious, and it excels in that area too. There are some moments in this anime where you were genuinely concerned for a character's safety, and I legitimately expected a major character to die in some scenes. This show knows when to take things seriously and always executes those moments perfectly. If there's something that you as a viewer need to feel invested in, then this show will make sure to do that. And these serious moments wouldn't have hit us hard had we not had those really silly, goofy moments where the show warmed us up to these characters. Honestly, I'm so happy to see that my concern over this show's tone was completely unfounded and that it ended up being one of the show's greatest strengths. Now let's talk about this anime soundtrack. Kaiju No. 8 has a very interesting soundtrack and one that I wasn't expecting. It's quite unique, at least compared to the anime that I've seen, and I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it at first, but like this anime as a whole, it really grew on me and it really hyped me up for the oncoming action sequences. One thing that was quite divisive about this anime was its opening and ending song, especially the opening song. First of all, some people didn't really like the actual song in the opening. For some reason, the opening and ending songs for this anime are by Western musicians, the English singer Yungblud doing the opening and the American band One Republic doing the ending. This isn't the first time that Western music has been used in anime before, but I do think this is the first time that Western musicians have created songs specifically for an anime, and this could result in the floodgates opening for future anime to collaborate with Western musicians. Don't know why it was Kaiju No. 8 of all anime to be the first one to do it, especially as Kaiju No. 8 is very Japanese. It's literally about fighting kaiju, but it will be interesting to see if anything comes of this or if this is just a one-off. I do think that some people are always going to hate the opening and ending because it isn't Japanese singers. Obviously you don't need to like these songs, everyone has their own taste in music, but I do think that there will be a group of people who are so disappointed that this anime didn't use Japanese singers that the songs would have to be 10 out of 10 to even make them think that it was a decent song. Personally, I didn't love the opening song at first, but the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. And again, like the anime as a whole, it really grew on me. However, one thing that I really loved about this opening was its visuals. I am shocked that some people said the visuals in the opening were bad. Some people will really spit on anything that's CGI in anime. The only thing that I didn't think looked great in the opening was the T-Rex. It looks a little goofy to me and it's on screen just a little too long, but the rest of the opening looks stunning and really sells that this is a high budget production. Legitimately for a second, I thought that shot of Kafka and Mina standing next to each other was live action. That's how good the CGI was in this opening. To me this opening looks like a James Bond opening. I think it's excellent, an actually great opening, and I absolutely love the ending song too. The visuals are simple but nice and I really love the song by One Republic. It's extremely catchy and very uplifting. It is one of the few ending songs that I would always listen to, and that is a very rare thing. I think this experiment of incorporating Western singers has been a big success and I wouldn't be against seeing it happen more often. I'm curious as to who they'll get for the second season's opening and ending. Before we move on to the characters, I do want to quickly circle back to this anime's animation. Talking about the opening has reminded me of something I forgot to mention. Whilst the animation is beautiful in this anime, there is a bit of dodgy CGI sprinkled here and there throughout the series. It's not great. It's not frequent enough to be a real detriment, but it is a bit of a distraction, and if you're someone who struggled with the opening CGI, then this stuff will be a death sentence for you. But now, we get to my favourite part of making these videos. We get to talk about this anime's fantastic cast of characters. Kaiju number 8 has some very memorable characters, starting with its lead, Kafka. I love Kafka. First of all, it's nice to see a shonen led by a character that isn't a teenager or a young adult, especially as there are quite a few characters of that age range all over this show, and I like that Kafka's older age, even though he's definitely not an old man, does play a big role in his character and development. Kafka has reached an age where his dream no longer seems attainable, and it's resulted in being quite depressed. But what I like about Kafka is that he isn't this cynical or grumpy guy. The man still tries extremely hard at everything he does, even though he repeatedly failed to enter the defense force. The other guys in the cleanup crew really respect Kafka and genuinely like him despite his comedic outbursts. And when Ichikawa convinces Kafka to give joining the defense force another shot, all of the cleanup crew root for him and state that he deserves it. Kafka is so infectiously likeable. Even the younger defense force recruits all like him too. In keeping with the humorous tone, Kafka isn't as good as they are at fighting Kaiju. He did literally fail the test a lot of times, and since he wants to keep his Kaiju identity a secret, he doesn't just transform willy-nilly unless he absolutely needs to. So instead, he stays in his far weaker human form. Kafka can be so hilariously inept at times that it wouldn't be unsurprising if the other recruits all found him annoying and loathed his presence, given that they kill far more Kaiju than him. Yet Kafka is so genuinely supportive and kind, and like I said, hilariously inept, that the others all legitimately love having him around. Whilst the tone may not always allude to it, Kaiju number 8 is a dark and unforgiving world. Remembering that, it shouldn't be a surprise that the others loved having this goofball around to constantly cheer them up. Kafka is basically the fun uncle of the group. However, Kafka offers more than just fun and positivity. Since he's not a great fighter outside of his Kaiju form, Kafka finds other ways to be useful to the defense force. Kafka basically takes on the supportive role. He doesn't just provide emotional support to the other characters, but he also gives vital information to the defense force to help them in their fight with the Kaiju. I said earlier that Kafka is a hard worker. Kafka spends countless hours researching Kaiju whilst the others rest after a hard day of training. This combined with all the detailed dissections and corpse removals that he had done in his many years as part of the cleanup crew, means that Kafka has great knowledge of the Kaiju, and this knowledge proves invaluable during missions. At first, you'll probably be pretty annoyed that Kafka doesn't sneakily use his abilities to get ahead of the other recruits, but it ends up paying off fantastically when you realise that Kafka is being recognised by the others for his actual effort. Kafka tries so hard and he wants to be by Mina's side for his own attainment, and I love that his hard work actually does pay off for him. I love that it also doesn't feel like an arse pull either. The reason why Kafka is recognised by the others is legitimately a good and unique reason to Kafka. It's not just that Kafka could now kill one Kaiju, whereas before he could kill 0. However, this anime isn't called Kafka, it's called Kaiju number 8, and Kafka is badass when he's in his Kaiju form. But I also love that he's still that same plonker even when he's in his Kaiju form. He still acts really silly and still pulls some really funny anime faces. I absolutely love the design of Kafka's Kaiju form, and it makes him look so cool, and the sillier moments with him hit so much harder by contrast. Kafka is an extremely three-dimensional character with a lot of depth, even in just his first season. He can be a massive dope 1 second, and then the coolest character in anime the next. Even with so many anime in existence, Kafka still feels unique and stands out from every other anime that I've seen. I also agree with Mina's assessment of Kafka. Despite his circumstances, Kafka really is one of the most human-feeling characters that I've ever come across. And I really do hope that we get to dive even further into who Kafka is, and he continues to prove himself to all those around him. Then we have Ichikawa. Initially, Ichikawa comes across as quite cold and dismissive, and you sort of worry that he's going to be this really annoying, closed-off character. Fortunately, this personality barely lasts half an episode. Ichikawa is a very determined individual who will chase his dreams even if it kills him. When he joins the cleanup crew to gain experience and he sees Kafka has given up on the exact same dream, it ticks him off. However, Kafka's personality and hard work really inspire Ichikawa, and he goes from looking down on Kafka to calling him his senpai and encouraging him to retake the Defense Force exam. Ichikawa becomes a really good friend to Kafka and is the character who supports Kafka the most. As he also knows Kafka's Kaiju secrets, he also works diligently to become strong enough so that Kafka is never forced to reveal himself. Whilst I do think that Ichikawa is a little overshadowed by other characters as the season progresses, I do still really like him, and the anime has set him up to play a major role in future events, so I fully expect him to get some really memorable sequences and events. Like Ichikawa, Kikoru initially comes across a little unlikable. She's very cocky and arrogant, and she seems primed to be the tsundere of this anime. However, the anime makes the wise decision to reveal her backstory, and it's a really sad one. What I like about it too is that it isn't that far-fetched. I mean, the kaiju elements of it are, but her whole desire to be perfect so that her dad will finally recognise her and applaud her, and how the emotional neglect she's received in her upbringing has resulted in her abrasive personality, is something that I feel a lot of people will sadly be able to relate to. Her backstory results in a lot of sympathy and will completely flip how some people view this character. It's also why I completely adore her relationship with Kafka. I wouldn't really describe Kikoru as a tsundere, she's more tsundere-ish, because she never hides how happy she is to see Kafka. It's more that she doesn't know how to react to his genuine praise of her, and tries to hide how happy his comments make her feel. I think some people might view Kikoru's feelings towards Kafka as romantic ones. Personally, I don't see their relationship that way, and I also don't think that's how the anime is trying to present their relationship, although I could be wrong. In my eyes, Kafka is the father that Kikoru didn't have. She's experiencing everything that she wanted to experience with her father through Kafka. He is so supportive of her and so in awe of her abilities that it completely takes her off guard and warms her rather cold heart. She really does love Kafka, but not in the way that some people think she does, at least in my opinion. Again, I could be the one who's wrong. Plus, she's just a genuine powerhouse and already one of the strongest characters in the series. I cannot wait to see what she does in future episodes, because she is guaranteed to get some really badass moments down the line in this series. Now we move on to the character who might just be my favourite in the entire show. It would really be a toss up between them and Kafka, but I think my favourite character in Kaiju No. 8 is Vice Captain Hoshina. Hoshina often seems to get compared to Levi from Attack on Titan due to his amazing fighting ability and the fact that he fights these massive kaiju with these small blades. And yeah, in many ways, Hoshina is Levi, if Levi had a massive sense of humour. I love that when we're introduced to Hoshina, he's just laughing about Kafka's weak performance in the exam and wants to pass him because Kafka will be the comic relief of the team. Hoshina is a great character because he fits perfectly with the tone of Kaiju No. 8. He can be really silly and crack jokes, but he also takes his job seriously when it comes to fighting kaiju and keeping his recruits safe. I also like that he genuinely appreciates Kafka's work, and similarly to Ichikawa, he very quickly goes from looking down on Kafka to valuing him and realising how useful he is, and the benefits to having him around. Hoshina's a great character because we get to see so many different sides to him, just like Kafka. And we do get to see Hoshina's backstory in this series, which shines even more of a bright light on this character. In a lot of ways, Hoshina is like Kafka, a goofy badass. And in my opinion, it's Hoshina who gets the coolest moments of Season 1. I really do look forward to seeing more of Hoshina in the future, and I also hope that we get more of Kafka and Hoshina interacting with one another, because the two really bounce off one another and I love whenever they're on screen together. I'm secretly hoping that Hoshina will end up training Kafka personally, but until that maybe happens, I'll just continue to enjoy watching Hoshina be either really funny or really cool. Then there's Mina. I'm not going to lie, I was quite disappointed in Mina's character. She is the main motivation for Kafka in this series, as he wants to be by her side, and at the same time, he is also her main motivator for wanting to be strong and a part of the Defense Force. So I was quite let down when the anime presented her as quite cold, emotionless, monotone, and empty. It probably doesn't help that Hoshina is pretty much always by her side, and he's such a great character that he was always overshadowing her. And it meant that even though she would get these really cool moments in the series, I just wasn't clicking with her at all, and I never really cared when she was on screen. However, my opinion of Mina did a complete 180 after I saw the last 2 episodes of Kaiju No. 8. Without getting into spoiler territory, the last 2 episodes of the season really revealed who Mina was to me, There were only 2 moments in the season where I felt myself getting a little emotional, and both revolved around Mina and her relationship with Kafka. There's a scene in the penultimate episode between Kafka and Mina where Mina drops the facade, and it just becomes so clear how much she cares for Kafka and how happy it is making her that he is slowly clawing his way up to her side. Mina was never cold or emotionless. She was just sad and disappointed in Kafka for not being with her even though he promised. She wasn't being distant towards him, she was just being professional. She's a captain and he's just a trainee. No matter how much she wants to pull him up to her level, she can't give him special treatment, and I love that about Mina. She's just like Kafka in that sense. She doesn't cheat. She plays by the rules and does things the right way, no matter how hard it is for her to do so. And she still succeeds, and it makes us so happy seeing Kafka succeed too. The final 2 episodes of this season really solidified the relationship between Kafka and Mina, to the point that I want to not only see Kafka by Mina's side, but I want to see the two become an actual couple too. Don't know if that's the route the show's going down, but the two have such a positive influence on each other that I think that they'd be great together. Plus, Kafka is able to open up a side of Mina that no one else can. The final character that I'm going to talk about is Kaiju No. 9, who seems primed to be the main antagonist of this series. First of all, I love Kaiju No. 9's design. He looks really creepy, although No. 10 had the best character design in the anime, and his voice is effectively unnerving too. He adds a real sense of horror to this series and heightens the stakes and tension whenever he walks on screen. Since he's a kaiju too, he feels quite different from your usual main antagonist. He doesn't seem to really have any grand desires, he just wants to fight and kill humans because he's a kaiju, and that's what kaiju do. And that makes him dangerous because he's an enemy that can't be reasoned with. Kafka isn't going to be able to talk no jutsu to No. 9 and bring him on the team. No. 9 is on a mission and will have to be killed before he gets any more powerful, especially as the finale implies that he's rapidly growing in strength and evolving. Time will tell just how much No. 9 improves and whether he'll be a threat too large for Kafka to handle by himself. There are other characters that I liked in this anime, but they didn't have enough of an impact on me or this series for me to talk about them here. Maybe I'll discuss them in a future video once season 2 is released, because they've already confirmed that it's in production. I'm so excited. There's also apparently a game on the way. I'm so happy that they seem to be going all in on Kaiju No. 8 because it is a great anime. Kaiju No. 8 has breathtaking visuals due to the always reliable production IG, it has a unique and enjoyable soundtrack, its characters like the story are wonderful and are all able to both be really cool but really silly too. And I'm really going to miss watching this anime every week, as it was absolutely my favourite anime of this season. But that's just how I feel about this anime. What about you? Did you like Kaiju No. 8? Was it your favourite anime of this season? If not, then what was your favourite anime this season? Who was your favourite character in Kaiju No. 8? And are you excited for season 2? Also, did you bounce off the first episode like I did? And did your opinion of both the anime and Mina change? Please let me know the answers to all those questions in the comments below. And whilst you're down there, do be sure to hit the like button. It significantly boosts this video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you're feeling especially generous, then do consider subscribing. I'm aiming to hit 1000 subscribers before the end of the year, and it's looking really doable. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Mina, 俺はまだお前の隣目指していいのかな。
ずっと待ってる。